The morning light shines through the blinds, coloring my bedroom shades of gold. 7 o'clock, the alarm clock hasn't rung yet, but I'm awake. The habit of waking up early has stayed with me all my life, even when it's no longer necessary. At 68, though, not much sleep is required. I carefully pull back the blanket and sit on the edge of the bed. The right side is empty. It's been 5 years since Molly left me, but every morning I still instinctively reach for her side of the bed. 5 years of loneliness in a house built for two. Sometimes I think I can hear her coming down the stairs or rattling cups in the kitchen. Southaven is a small town, but without Molly it seems vast and desolate. My reflection in the mirror speaks unadorned. Harper Nightingale, 68 years old, gray hair, short haircut, deep wrinkles around her eyes and lips. But the gaze is still sharp. When I was young, many people said I had an accountant's look, attentive, keen, noticing every digit out of place. 43 years I worked as a chief accountant for a construction company called Foundation Construction. 43 years of balance sheets, reports, and audits. Not one mistake in my entire career. My breakfast is always the same: oatmeal, toast with jam, and a cup of black tea. My daughter Laurel keeps telling me I need to diversify my diet, but I love the predictability. There are so few things in the world that you can control, so I appreciate being able to know exactly what I'm going to have for breakfast. Laurel. When I think of her, it's hard on my heart. My only daughter is the exact opposite of me. Where I'm calculating and pragmatic, she's impulsive and emotional. Where I'm direct, she's evasive and smooth. We were never really close, even when she was a child. Since Molly's death, the gulf between us has only widened. Laurel is 42 years old and works as a public relations specialist for the local government. Always smiling, always ready to make conversation. The perfect person for the job. Except that behind this perfect shell is a person who can't say no and is constantly trying to please everyone around her, even her ex-husband who left her with a 10-year-old son for a young colleague. I finish my tea and look at the clock. 8:30. The doorbell rings at exactly the time we agreed on. It's Calvin, my grandson. At 26, he's already a head taller than me, with dark hair like his father's, but Laurel eyes brown and kind. Too kind, in my opinion. In this world, kindness without boundaries often turns against you. "Good morning, Grandpa." Calvin leans over to hug me, and I can smell his cologne, something woody and too clingy. "Morning." I pull away slightly and let him into the house. "Would you like some tea?" "I'd love some." He follows me into the kitchen and sits down at the table. "How are you feeling?" It's a typical question one asks of the elderly. As if, after 60, our well-being is the only topic of conversation. "The usual," I answer, setting the cup in front of him. "My blood pressure's fine, my joints aren't bothering me, my memory's good." "How are things with you and Raven?" His face tenses slightly at the mention of his wife. They've only been married a year, but I'm already noticing certain difficulties. "We're doing fine, Grandfather. Raven sends her love." That's a lie. Raven Blackwood, my grandson's wife, has never said hello to me. From the day Calvin brought her to meet me, I sensed a coldness from her. She was impeccably polite, smiled at the right moments, said the right words, but her eyes were empty, like a snake's before it threw. Raven is 24 years old, working at a travel agency, beautiful, ambitious, with impeccable taste and manners, and with absolute certainty that she deserves better than a life in a rented apartment with a husband who works as a technical support specialist at an internet service provider. "So how's the house hunting going?" I ask, even though I know the answer perfectly well. Calvin sighs and wraps his hands around the cup as if seeking warmth and support. "Not really, to be honest. Housing prices in South Haven have gone up in the last year, and banks are reluctant to give mortgages to people like us. The down payment has to be at least 20%, and that's a lot of money," I finished for him. "Yeah, a lot. He sips his tea and adds more quietly. Raven's upset. She says we've been waiting too long, that we need to step up our game. Acting more decisively is Raven's style. I can imagine her saying this, tapping her long fingernails on the table with a slight impatience in her voice. What does your mother think? Mom, Calvin stammers, and I realize the subject is a tricky one. She thinks that Raven and I should be on our own, that it'll make us stronger as a couple. You know, Mom, she's always talking about independence and responsibility. Ironically, Laurel was never really on her own. After the divorce, she moved in with me and Molly for 6 months until she got back on her feet. And then when Calvin went to college, I paid his tuition because Laurel didn't have enough savings. And how much are you short for a down payment? I asked, though I was already calculating the numbers in my head. About $60,000, Calvin said in a whisper, as if the amount scared him. Raven and I have 20, but it's not enough. And the house we like, someone else will buy it soon. I get up and walk over to the window. Outside the glass are the neat houses of my neighbors, the manicured lawns, the measured suburban life. I remember how Molly and I saved up for this house, how we saved for everything, how we counted every dollar. But those were different times, different prices. Show me this house, I say, turning to my grandson. He looks at me in surprise, but pulls out his phone and opens the pictures. It's a 2-story Victorian-style house with a small garden and a veranda. It's not luxurious, but it's nice and cozy. $300,000, says Calvin. It's almost a bargain these days, but for us, I don't finish listening and go into my office. There, in an old secretary, are all my financial documents. I pull out a folder labeled Savings and return to the kitchen. I have money, I say, sitting down across from my grandson. Not all $60,000, but almost. 55. Calvin's eyes widen in surprise. Grandpa, are you serious? When I joke about money? I open the folder and show him the bank statements. Molly and I have always saved for a rainy day, and the rainy day too. I spent most of it on your education, but there's enough left over. Plus, my pension allows me to live comfortably without touching the principal. Calvin looks at the numbers on the paperwork, and I see hope appear in his eyes, and then doubt. But, it's your money, Grandpa. Your safety cushion. I can't just take it. Who says I'm giving it to you? I raise an eyebrow. I'm offering to lend it. No interest, but repayable. When you can. I don't really expect to see that money again. But it's important to me that Calvin feels a sense of responsibility, not just a gift. I don't know what to say. He looks confused. It's too generous. Say you'll accept the help and be reasonable with the money. I close the folder. And that you won't tell your mother. Laurel would be against it. You know that yourself. Calvin nods. We both realize that Laurel will see what I'm doing as interfering in her son's life, undermining her authority. Our relationship is already strained. This will only make it worse. What about Raven? I ask. What will she say? A slight shadow of concern appears on Calvin's face. She'll be happy that we can buy a house, but I'm not sure if I should tell her where the money comes from. That's interesting. So the newlyweds already have secrets from each other. Or Calvin just realizes Raven won't be happy to know they owe me. Do what you think is right, I said. But remember that secrets in marriage tend to come out at the worst possible time. Calvin finishes his tea and looks at his watch. I have to go. I promised Raven I'd stop by the real estate agency today. With new circumstances, I add. He smiles. For the first time since we've met, genuinely and broadly. Yes, with new circumstances. Thank you, Grandpa. I don't know how to thank you. Live happily ever after, I reply. And learn to say no when you have to, especially to your wife. I say the last part quietly, but Calvin hears me. His smile fades a little. Raven isn't what you think she is, he says. She's just ambitious. And sometimes she can be harsh. But she loves me. I don't argue. It's not my place to interfere in their relationship, at least not directly. After seeing my grandson off, I return to my office and sit down at my computer. Modern technology allows me to keep track of all my finances online, a habit left over from being an accountant. I transfer $55,000 into Calvin's account and make a note in my spreadsheet. Then I open the bank's website, where I have the bulk of my savings, about $200,000. Not much by today's standards, but enough to feel secure. It's money I've been saving all my life, saving from every paycheck, investing in safe bonds, avoiding risky investments. Molly always joked that I was too conservative with my finances, but it was that conservatism that allowed us to buy a house, educate our daughter, and now help our grandson. In the evening, Calvin calls. His voice is excited, his words confused. "Grandpa, we made an offer on the house and it's accepted. We're signing the papers tomorrow." "Congratulations," I say, feeling a strange mixture of joy and anxiety. "I hope you'll be happy in your new home." Raven is thrilled. She's already planning how to organize everything, what furniture to buy. She's never lived in her own house, only in rented apartments. "Does she know about my help?" I ask her directly. Pause. Then Calvin answers more quietly. "No, I told her we took out a loan from the bank against my car. She believed it. Lies begat lies." I sigh, but don't comment on his decision. "Come to dinner on Sunday," I say instead. "We'll celebrate your purchase." "Of course, Grandpa. We'll definitely come." I know that's not going to happen. At the last minute, Raven will come up with a reason why they can't come, like they've done 3 times in the last 2 months. After the conversation, I sit in my chair for a long time, looking at the pictures on the mantelpiece. Molly and me on our wedding day. Laurel at her high school graduation. Little Calvin with a fishing rod on the pier. Family is a strange construct, fragile yet incredibly strong. We are bound together not only by blood, but by stories, by grudges, by reticences. I think of Raven, her cold eyes and fake smile, the way she looks at me like I'm a relic of the past, an annoying obstacle to happiness. I think of Calvin, who's too kind and too naive, and of myself, a lonely old man whose money seems to be more valuable than his company. But then I remember how my grandson's eyes lit up when I offered to help, how he hugged me before I left, tightly, sincerely, and I decide it's worth it. Even if Raven will never appreciate what I did, even if Laurel will be angry when she finds out about it, I made the right choice. I pull an old notebook out of my desk drawer and open it to a blank page. "Calvin and Raven, house," I write at the top and put today's date. Then I add the amount and underline it. This entry isn't so much a reminder of a debt as it is a testament to my involvement in their lives, proof that I still matter. As I fall asleep, I think about how maybe helping with the house will bring us closer together. Maybe Raven will see me not just as old Calvin, but as someone who genuinely wants what's best for them. Maybe Calvin will learn to be more open and honest. Maybe. But deep down, I know that's not how it's going to be, and that what I've done is just the first step on a path that could lead to completely unexpected consequences. The South Haven Trust Bank always smells of furniture polish and the faint scent of the receptionist's perfume, too sweet for my taste. I sit across from the loan officer, a young woman with red hair and thin-rimmed glasses. The name on the name tag is Stella Hope. She doesn't look much older than Raven, but in her eyes I see professionalism and attention to detail. "So, Mr. Nightingale, would you like to co-borrow on your grandson's mortgage?" She goes through the documents I've brought, bank statements, tax returns for the last 3 years, a certificate of pension accrual. "Yes," I answer. "Calvin and his wife have found a suitable house, but they don't have enough money for a down payment, and the bank doubts their ability to pay." Stella nods, making notes in the file. "You realize that as a co-borrower, You take full responsibility for the loan in case the primary borrowers can't meet their obligations. Of course, I smile slightly. I've been a chief accountant for 43 years. I understand what financial obligations are. She adjusts her glasses in embarrassment. I apologize, Mr. Nightingale. I just have to make sure you're fully aware of the risks involved. Especially given, she hesitates. Given my age? I'm finishing up for her. Don't worry, I'm of sound mind and good judgment, and if you look at my financials, you'll see that I'm more than solvent. Stella looks over my paperwork and her eyebrows raise slightly. Yes, my savings are impressive even to bankers. I've always been conservative in spending and wise in investing. That's right. Your financial situation is impeccable. She sets the papers aside. However, the mortgage is for 25 years. It's a long-term commitment. I know what she means. In 25 years, I'll be 93 years old. The likelihood that I will live to pay off the loan in full is slim. In the event of my death, I say bluntly, my assets will more than cover the remaining debt. Plus, I plan to take out a life insurance policy tied to this mortgage. Stella visibly relaxes. Banks like to have a safety net. In that case, I think we can move on. I'll prepare all the necessary documents. You'll need to sign them along with your grandson and his wife. No, I shake my head. I would prefer that my involvement remain confidential, at least for now. Stella looks puzzled. I'm afraid that's not possible, Mr. Nightingale. All co-borrowers must be named in the documents and all parties must know the terms of the deal. I sigh. Of course, I knew it wouldn't work, but I was hoping for some kind of loophole. Okay, I agree. Then I'll talk to my grandson. But I'd like you to first prepare preliminary documents with just my name on them. I want to see the exact terms before I involve him. Stella nods, clearly not understanding my motives, but hesitating to question further. I walk out of the bank at noon. The sun is shining brightly, but the air is chilly in the fall. Southaven is especially beautiful this time of year. The maples along the streets are red and gold. The air smells of fallen leaves and smoke from the fireplaces. My phone rings as I walk to my car. Laurel. I wonder for a second if I should ignore the call, but then I answer it. Hello, Laurel. Hi, Dad. Her voice sounds cheerful, but I can hear the tension. How are you today? Fine, I answer, getting into the car. I was at the bank dealing with some financial issues. Nothing serious, I hope. There's concern in her voice. Laurel is always worried that I'll make some financial mistake because of my age. Nothing I can't handle, I say dryly. How are you doing? I'm good. Listen, did you hear the news? Calvin and Raven bought a house. I pause, carefully choosing my words. Yeah, Calvin mentioned that they found the right one. They've already signed the preliminary contract. Can you believe it? I'm so happy for them. Although I admit I'm a little surprised. I didn't think they had saved enough for a down payment. This is it, the moment of truth. I could tell my daughter about my involvement right now, but something is holding me back. Maybe it's a habit of keeping financial matters to myself, or maybe it's an unwillingness to listen to her inevitable recriminations. Maybe they took out an extra loan, I suggest neutrally. Maybe. Laurel doesn't sound entirely convinced. Either way, they're having a housewarming party in 2 weeks as soon as they're done decorating and moving in. Will you be there? If I'm invited, I said, starting the car. Of course you'll be invited. You're Calvin's grandfather. I'm not sure Raven shares that opinion, but I don't say it out loud. Then I'll be there, I promise. Laurel, I have to go. I'll talk to you later. I end the call before she can add anything else and pull out of the parking lot. In the evening, I call Calvin and ask him to come to my place the next day, alone, without Raven. He sounds puzzled, but agrees. Calvin arrives at 10 in the morning. I greet him with a cup of coffee. He prefers coffee to tea, unlike me. What's up, Grandpa? He asks, making himself comfortable in the living room. You sounded serious yesterday. I sit down across from him and place a folder of documents from the bank on the table. I was at South Haven Trust yesterday. Talked about becoming a co-borrower on your mortgage. Calvin's eyes widen. What? But, why? We already have a down payment thanks to your help. The down payment is just the beginning, I explained. The bank is still questioning your ability to pay. You've only been in tech support for 3 years, Raven at her agency even less. You have no credit history for such a large sum. Calvin frowns, clearly hurt. We can handle it, Grandpa. I can pick up extra shifts. Raven's been promised a promotion. I don't doubt you, I interrupt softly. But the bank looks at numbers, not potential. With my involvement, you'll get a better interest rate and better terms. Calvin picks up the folder and looks over the documents. I can see the look on his face change when he sees the numbers. The difference in monthly payments with and without my participation is substantial. That's very generous, Grandpa. He looks up. But I can't accept it. It's too much responsibility for you. Not for me, I smile. I know finances better than anyone in this family, and I have faith in you and Raven. Think of it as an investment in your future. Actually, I don't believe in Raven one bit, but I do believe in Calvin. Despite his softness, he's hard-working and responsible. Calvin is silent for a long moment, looking at the papers, then sighs. Mom will be against it. Your mother can't know, I say firmly. Not yet, anyway. This is between us. And Raven? He looks at me with concern. I can't keep this from my wife. I understand his concern. Secrets in a marriage are rarely a good thing. Tell her if you feel you need to, I agree. But remember that some people don't like to feel obligated. Calvin nods slowly. I'll think of a better way to explain it. Thank you, Grandfather. I don't know how to thank you. Just be happy, I reply, and make sure the house is really yours, in every way. He doesn't quite know what I mean, but he nods. We agree to meet at the bank in 2 days to sign the final papers. After Calvin leaves, I sit in my chair for a long time, pondering my decision. Why am I doing this? Out of love for my grandson, of course, but there's another reason, a more selfish one. I want to be needed. I want to have leverage in the life of my only grandson. I want to be sure that I will not be forgotten, not relegated to the background, as is often the case with elderly relatives. 2 days later, we meet at the bank, Calvin, Raven, and me. When I see Raven's face, I realize that Calvin has told her about my involvement. She looks tense, her smile strained to the max. Harper, she greets me without making an attempt at a hug or even a handshake. Calvin told me about your offer. It's very generous of you. Her voice sounds like every word hurts her. I nod, not trying to pretend there's any warmth between us. Stella Hope greets us with a professional smile and ushers us into the meeting room. We spend the next hour signing endless documents. I notice Raven scrutinizing every page, especially the sections on the rights and responsibilities of the co-borrowers. Calvin looks nervous, constantly shifting his gaze from me to his wife. When all the papers are signed, Stella congratulates us and hands us copies of the documents. Congratulations on buying a house, she smiles. I think this is the beginning of a wonderful new phase in your life. Absolutely, Raven replies with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. We are very grateful for the support. As I leave the bank, I feel Raven's gaze on me, cold, assessing. She doesn't say a word as we walk toward the parking lot, but her tension is physically palpable. Well, I say, stopping in front of my car, congratulations on the house. I hope you'll be happy in it. Thank you, Grandpa, Calvin hugs me. We are so grateful to you. Raven stands a little to the side, wrapping her arms around herself like she's cold, even though it's a warm day. Yes, thank you, she says finally. We appreciate your help. Help, not support, not generosity, not kindness. Help is like a handout she's forced to accept. I look forward to the housewarming party, I say as I get in the car. Of course, Calvin nods vigorously. We're planning a small party in 2 weeks, once we're settled in. I start the engine and drive away, watching in the rearview mirror as Raven says something to Calvin, and Calvin justifies it with his hands. The next 2 weeks pass in a flurry of housewarming preparations. Calvin calls me almost every day, talking about the move, the new furniture, the renovation plans. Raven is only a mention in these conversations. Raven picked out the wallpaper. Raven ordered the couch. Not once does she pick up the phone when I call. Not once does she say hello. Laurel calls often, too, clearly concerned about what's going on. "Daddy, do you know where they got the money for the house?" she asks during one of the calls. Calvin says something inarticulate about savings and a good time in the market. "Why don't you ask him directly?" I dodge the question. "I did, but it's like he's hiding something," Laurel sighs. "I'm worried that they've taken out a loan at a ridiculous interest rate or something." "Your son is a grown man, Laurel," I say, feeling a prick of guilt for my part in the deception. "Trust his judgment." "This isn't about Calvin." Her voice gets quieter. "It's Raven. She's too ambitious. I'm afraid she's pushing him into decisions they can't afford. I'm not saying anything." For the first time, Laurel expresses doubts about her son's choices, and I don't know how to respond. On the one hand, I agree with her. On the other, I don't want to add to her anxiety. "Come to the housewarming party," I say instead of answering. "You'll see for yourself." 3 days before the party, I go to the mall to pick out a gift. What do you get for housewarming parties these days? In my day, it was practical things, kitchen items, linens, dishes. But Raven, I'm sure, is expecting something a little more, impressive. I walk from store to store, looking at furnishings, electronics, housewares. Nothing seems appropriate. Too ordinary, too impersonal, too expensive, too cheap. Eventually, I stop at a jewelry store window. There, on a velvet cushion, lies a silver statuette of a house. Small, dainty, engraved, "Home Sweet Home." "May I look at this figurine?" I ask the salesperson, an elegant middle-aged woman. She pulls out the statue and places it on the counter. "It's handmade by an Italian craftsman," she explains. "It's 925th silver. You can personalize it with names, dates, or addresses." I take the statue in my hands. It's heavier than it looks, and surprisingly detailed tiny windows with curtains, roof tiles, even a miniature mailbox by the front door. "How much is it worth?" I ask. The seller names an amount that makes me raise my eyebrows slightly. It's considerably more than I had planned to spend. But something about this statue appeals to me. Perhaps the symbolism. A home that will remain even when the real home is lost. "I'll take it," I decide. "And please have it engraved. To Calvin and Raven from Grandpa Harper. Home is where the heart is." The clerk writes down my wishes and promises that the statue will be ready by tomorrow. As I leave the store, I feel a strange satisfaction. Yes, the gift is expensive, perhaps even extravagant, but it will definitely get Raven's attention, and maybe make her think that I'm not just Calvin's grandfather, but a man to be reckoned with. The next day, I pick up the statue, already packaged in an elegant box with a silver ribbon. It looks even more beautiful than I remembered, the engraving done gracefully and tastefully. In the evening, Calvin calls. "Grandpa, we are so looking forward to seeing you tomorrow." His voice sounds genuinely happy. "The party starts at 6. Don't bring anything, just come." "Of course I'll come," I reply, looking at the gift box. "And I already bought you a present, so don't try to talk me out of it." Calvin laughs. "Okay, but know that we don't need anything. Your help with the house is already the biggest gift of all." "Who's there?" I hear Raven's voice in the background. "Grandpa," Calvin answers, pushing the receiver away slightly. Then turns to me again. Raven says hi. False. I can hear the fake notes in his voice. Raven didn't say hi to me. Say hi to her too, I say, deciding not to emphasize that little lie. See you tomorrow, Calvin. After the conversation, I sit in the kitchen for a long time looking at the gift. Tomorrow I'll walk into their house, the house I helped buy, but where I'll likely always feel like an intruder. Raven will take care of that. I think of Calvin, of his kindness and naivety, how he lets his wife manipulate him, how he doesn't notice her disregard for me, or notices, but chooses to ignore it to keep the peace in the family. I think of Raven, of her cold eyes and fake smile, about how she accepts my financial help but can't bring herself to show basic courtesy. And I think of myself, a man who has been straightforward and independent all his life, but now has to play these petty games to keep in touch with his only grandchild. I go into the bedroom and pull out of the closet the suit I'd prepared for the party, a navy blue, austere but elegant. Molly always said it was the right color for me. I try it on in front of the mirror and notice that it fits looser than before. The years are taking their toll. I'm getting smaller, like I'm shrinking with age. Walking back into the kitchen, I notice an old picture on the refrigerator magnetically attached. Calvin at about 10 years old sitting on my lap, both of us laughing about something. This was before Laurel's divorce, before life got complicated. I take the picture down and stare at it for a long time. Then I put it next to the gift. Maybe I'll take it with me tomorrow. A reminder of a time when things were simpler. Before I go to bed, I check my email, a habit I picked up as an accountant and can't get rid of even in retirement. Among the promotional mailings and notices from the bank, I see an email from Stella Hope. Confirmation of mortgage loan terms, the subject line reads. I open the email and look at the attached documents. Everything matches what we discussed: the loan amount, the interest rate, the repayment term. My name is listed next to Calvin and Raven's as a co-borrower. It's official. I'm not only related to them now, but also financially obligated. I print out the documents and put them in a folder, which I then tuck into my desk drawer. Laurel doesn't need to see them, at least not yet. I know the truth will come out sooner or later, but I hope to delay that moment as much as possible. As I fall asleep, I think about the party tomorrow, about how I'll walk into their house with a gift in my hand, about how Raven will greet me with a strained smile and cold eyes, about how Calvin would flit between us, trying to smooth things over, about how Laurel will be watching all of this, sensing something is wrong but not realizing what it is. And somewhere deep inside, I feel a sense of unease, a premonition that none of this is going to end well, that my actions, however well-intentioned, could lead to unintended consequences. But the choice is made, the papers are signed. I'm a co-borrower on Calvin and Raven's mortgage, whether she wants me to or not. And tomorrow I will walk into their house with my head held high and an expensive gift in my hand. Because I am Harper Nightingale. I'm not in the habit of backing down, and I'm not going to start now, even if it means a direct confrontation with my grandson's wife. After all, I helped buy this house, and I have a right to be welcome in it. The day is surprisingly warm for late fall in Southaven. I stand in front of the mirror scrutinizing my reflection. The navy blue suit fits well, even though I've lost weight over the past year. The silver tie clip, Molly's gift for our 40th anniversary, glistens in the lamplight. A discreetly patterned tie completes the look. At 68, I'm not trying to look younger, just dignified. On the dresser is a box with a silver figurine of the house I picked out for Calvin and Raven. Expensive, perhaps too expensive, but I want them to understand. Despite all the disagreements, I appreciate this important moment in their lives. I put on my coat, grab the box, and walk out of the house. It's only a 15-minute drive to their new home. Southaven isn't such a big town. On the way, I stop at a flower store and buy a bouquet. White lilies and blue irises, a classic housewarming combination. As I pull up to their house, I see that the street is already packed with cars. The light gray two-story Victorian-style house looks festive with garlands on the porch, lights and moving silhouettes of people through the windows. They've really made an effort to make the party a success. I park a little farther down the street and sit in the car for a few minutes, gathering my thoughts. Why am I here? To support my grandson on the big day, of course, but also to make my presence known in their lives, so that Raven can't just brush me off like a pesky fly. With the bouquet in one hand and the gift in the other, I walk up to the porch and ring the doorbell. A minute goes by, another. No one opens. Are the music and voices inside too loud to hear the ringing? I try again, holding my finger on the button a little longer. Finally, the door opens and I see Raven. She looks dazzling in a tight silver dress, with perfect styling and makeup. Around her neck is a pearl necklace that I'm sure is worth several of my monthly pensions. Harper. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. What a surprise. You can clearly hear the unpleasant surprise in her tone, as if she hadn't expected to see me, even though Calvin had called yesterday, confirming my presence. Hello, Raven. I try to keep my voice warm. Congratulations on the housewarming. I hold out the bouquet and the gift box to her. She takes them with apparent reluctance, as if I'm not handing her gifts, but some burdensome obligation. Thank you. She barely glances at the flowers. We're very, touched. Not a word about coming in. She stands in the doorway as if blocking my way. Can I come in? I ask her directly. Or would you rather I congratulate you from the porch? Raven looks slightly embarrassed, but quickly pulls herself together. Sure, come on in. She steps back, allowing me to enter. We just weren't expecting you so early. The party was scheduled for 6 o'clock. It's 6:15 now. I'm not early. She's lying. Inside, the house looks impressive. Spacious living room with high ceilings, new furniture, stylish accessories. Everything is in a modern style. Minimalism, gray and white tones with bright accents. Not at all like the traditional interior I expected to see in a Victorian house. It was clearly Raven's choice. There are about 20 people already gathered in the living room. I recognize Laurel, who is talking to some woman by the fireplace. A few of Calvin's co-workers I met at his birthday party. The rest are, I assume, Raven's friends and co-workers. Young, stylishly dressed people with glasses in their hands. Calvin is nowhere to be seen. Where's Calvin? I ask, turning to Raven, who's still standing nearby, holding my gifts as if she doesn't know what to do with them. He's in the kitchen helping with the appetizers, she replies. I'll tell him you're here. She doesn't offer to escort me to him, doesn't offer me a drink, doesn't introduce me to the other guests. She just stands there, clearly wanting me to go somewhere else. I'll find him myself, I say, and head to the back of the house where I assume the kitchen is. Raven quickly puts my gifts on the table by the entrance and follows me. Harper, wait! Her voice sounds worried. It's such a mess in there right now, it's best not to... I don't listen and walk forward confidently. The kitchen is spacious and modern, with an island in the middle with plates of appetizers. Calvin stands at the stove, turning something in a pan. Next to him is a young woman laughing at something he said. Calvin, I call out to my grandson. He turns around and I see his face light up with a smile. Grandpa! He leaves the frying pan and comes over to give me a hug. You've come. I'm so glad. There's not an ounce of falseness in his joy, and it warms my soul. At least my grandson is genuinely happy to see me. Of course I came, I replied, hugging him back. You invited me. I feel Raven's gaze on me, who stopped in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes narrowed, her lips pressed into a thin line. I got you a silver statue of the house, I say to Calvin. And the flowers, your wife accepted them. Thank you, Grandpa. Calvin looks touched. That's very nice of you. Would you like something to drink? We have champagne, wine, soft drinks. A glass of white wine would be nice, I said. Calvin pours me a glass of wine and introduces the young woman he was talking to. This is Tiffany, my colleague from tech support. Tiffany, this is my grandfather, Harper. Tiffany smiles and extends her hand. It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Nightingale. Calvin has told me a lot about you. Likewise, I reply, shaking her hand, and please call me Harper. Raven finally enters the kitchen. Her smile seems glued on. Calvin, darling, the guests are asking about those salmon canapes you promised. That's right. Calvin slaps himself on the forehead. I completely forgot. I'll be right back. He goes back to the stove and Raven stays standing next to me, clearly not knowing what to say. It's a beautiful house, I say, taking a sip of wine. You've done a good job organizing it. Thank you, she nods. It wasn't easy to blend modern style with Victorian architecture, but I think we've done it. Definitely, I agree. Though I've always thought Victorian houses blend better with more traditional interiors. Raven tenses. I realize my remark sounded like a criticism of her taste. Well, it's a matter of personal preference, she says dryly. Calvin and I prefer modern style. Calvin, busy at the stove, doesn't seem to hear our conversation, or prefers not to interfere. Of course, I nod. After all, it's your house. Bought with my money, I add mentally, but not out loud. Raven looks at her watch. I need to get back to my guests, she says. Please make yourselves at home. She leaves the kitchen without waiting for my response. I spend the next hour talking to Calvin and his co-workers, then find Laurel, who seems surprised by my presence. Dad, she hugs me. I didn't know you were coming. Calvin invited me, I reply, a little puzzled by her reaction. And you didn't expect me to come to my only grandson's housewarming party? Laurel looks embarrassed. Of course, Raven said it was a small party for close friends only. That sounds like a kick in the butt. So Raven told Laurel I wasn't invited, and Laurel took it for granted? I'm pretty close to Calvin, I say coldly, and I thought I was to you too. Laurel blushes. Dad, don't start, please. I didn't mean it like that. It's just, you don't usually like these noisy gatherings. She's right, I'm not a party person. But that's not the point. I wouldn't mind being able to decide for myself whether I want to come or not, I replied, not to find out from my own daughter that I wasn't considered close enough to be invited. Before Laurel can answer, Raven comes up to us with a glass of champagne in her hand. Laurel, she brightens with a smile, I was just looking for you. Jason wanted to ask about that event you're planning at City Hall. Laurel smiles gratefully, clearly happy to be able to get away from an unpleasant conversation. Sure, I'll be right there. She throws me an apologetic look and walks away. Raven remains standing next to me. Her smile fades as soon as Laurel gets far enough away. Harper, she says quietly but firmly, I appreciate you coming to congratulate us, but perhaps you should leave. I stare at her, not believing my ears. I beg your pardon? This is a party for young people, she continues. You must be uncomfortable here. And to be honest, some of the guests have asked who you are. They didn't expect to see an older man. An older man. I feel a wave of anger rising inside me. But I'm not going to make a scene, not here, not now. I'm the landlord's grandfather, I answer calmly. And I'm not going anywhere until I've spoken to the guests and said goodbye to my grandson properly. Raven's eyes narrow. Look, I'm trying to be polite, but frankly, you weren't invited to this party. Calvin should have warned you. At that moment, Calvin walks up to us holding a plate of canapes. Is everything all right? He asks, shifting his gaze from me to Raven. Your wife just informed me that I wasn't invited to this party, I say, looking him straight in the eye. Is that true, Calvin? Calvin goes pale. He opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again, like a fish that's been washed ashore. Grandpa, he stammers. Calvin just didn't want to upset you, Raven intervenes. We planned a separate, quieter dinner for the family, but somehow you decided you were invited tonight. I didn't somehow decide, I counter, feeling my voice start to shake with anger. Your husband called me yesterday and invited me. He said the party starts at 6. Raven turns to Calvin and I can see her face darken with anger. You invited him? After we agreed tonight was for friends only? Calvin looks cornered. His gaze swings between Raven and me. I thought Grandpa should be here too, he says quietly. He helped us with the house and… Oh, so that's what this is about. Raven raises his voice and several of the nearest guests turn to look at us. Did you invite him out of guilt? Or did he make you? Raven, please. Calvin tries to calm her down. Let's not make a scene. A scene? Raven's almost screaming now. You're the one who made a scene by inviting him without my knowledge. The guests fall silent, the music seeming too loud in the silence. Everyone's looking at us. You weren't invited to this party. Raven turns to me, her face contorted with rage. I didn't want you here. Do you understand? I didn't want you here. There's a dead silence in the room. I can feel the stares of everyone here, surprised, confused, sympathetic. Laurel is standing at the window, her hand over her mouth. Calvin looks like he's been punched. He opens his mouth to say something, but no sound comes out. I slowly set my glass down on the nearest table, squaring my shoulders, lifting my chin. Dignity is the only thing I have left in this situation. In that case, I'm leaving, I say, quietly but clearly. Thank you for your hospitality. I turn and head for the exit. The guests part before me like the Red Sea before Moses. No one says a word. At the door, I turn around and see Calvin take a step toward me, but Raven grabs his arm, holding him in place. He doesn't resist, doesn't follow me, doesn't intercede. Stepping outside, I take a deep breath of the cold evening air. My hands shake as I reach for my car keys. Tears well up in my eyes, but I won't let them spill. Not here, not now. I get in the car and drive away, not looking back at the house I helped buy but don't want to be seen in. At home, I finally allow myself to let my emotions out. I feel humiliation, hurt, disappointment in my own grandson who didn't have the courage to protect me. I feel the bitterness of realizing that my money has been accepted and I myself have been rejected. When the emotional storm subsides, anger comes, cold, calculating anger. I go to my office, pull out my mortgage paperwork and scrutinize it. As a co-borrower, I have certain rights and certain responsibilities. I pick up the phone and dial Stella Hope's number. Mr. Nightingale? She answers after the third ring, her voice sleepy. It's late, but I don't care. Is something wrong? Yes, I answer firmly. I need counseling about my participation in my grandson's mortgage. Would 9 o'clock tomorrow morning suit you? Of course, she sounds concerned. I'll book a time for you. May I ask what the problem is? I want to default on the loan, I say bluntly. Completely and immediately. In the morning, I wake up with a heavy head, but a firm intention. I dress especially carefully. Strict suit, tie, polished shoes. The image of a businessman who knows what he wants. I arrive at the South Haven Trust at 9 o'clock sharp. Stella Hope is waiting for me in her office, her face worried. Mr. Nightingale, before we begin, I'd like to make sure you fully understand the consequences of your decision, she says as soon as I sit down. Defaulting on the loan could result in your grandson and his wife losing the house. The bank will likely call off the loan if you walk away from the deal. I understand, I nod. Still, I want to know my options. Stella sighs and opens the file folder. You have a few options, but none of them are perfect. The first is selling the house and paying off the loan. The second is refinancing the loan without your involvement if your grandson and his wife can now qualify on their own. The third is replacing you with another co-borrower. Prepare the paperwork to formally notify the bank, I say firmly. I want to waive all financial obligations on this loan. In 2 hours, everything is ready. I sign the documents officially relinquishing my obligations under the mortgage loan. Stella looks concerned but professionally composed. The bank will be contacting your grandson and his wife in the next few days, she says, collecting the signed forms. They will be offered options on how to proceed. Thank you. I stand up, feeling oddly relieved. Walking out of the bank, I turn on my phone. 15 missed calls from Calvin, 3 voicemails. I listen to them, apologies, pleas to call back, promises to explain everything. Not a word about how it's his fault for not standing up for me. At noon, I pull up to their house. Calvin's car is in the driveway. He must have taken the day off after last night's party. I ring the doorbell, and after a few seconds, Calvin opens it. His eyes are red like he's been up all night. "Grandpa!" He looks both relieved and scared at the same time. "I'm so glad you came. I wanted to apologize for yesterday. Raven had no right." "I didn't come to apologize," I interrupt him. "I was at the bank today. I waived all obligations on your mortgage." Calvin looks at me with incomprehension. What does that mean?" "It means that you and Raven are now fully responsible for paying off the loan. The bank will be contacting you shortly to discuss your options." At that moment, Raven appears in the hallway. She looks tired, no makeup, wearing homemade clothes. "What's going on?" she asks, looking at me warily. "Harper says he's defaulted on our mortgage," Calvin replies in a shaky voice. Raven looks at me incomprehensively. "What does that mean?" "It means," I answer calmly, "that the bank will probably cancel your loan because, without me as a co-borrower, you don't meet the ability to pay requirements. You'll either have to find another co-borrower, refinance the loan, or sell the house." I see Raven's face slowly pale as she gets the meaning of my words. "You can't do that," she says, but there's no certainty in her voice. It's illegal. It's perfectly legal," I reply. "I'm a co-borrower, and I have the right to resign from that role. Of course, the bank must be notified that I will no longer be making payments, and they will in turn notify you of the new terms." Calvin looks shocked. "Grandpa, please don't do this. We won't be able to pay the mortgage without you. We'll lose the house." "You should have thought of that before you humiliated me at your party," I say, looking directly at Raven. "Before saying I wasn't invited. Before you kick me out the door like some annoying old man." Raven opens her mouth to say something, but I raise my hand, stopping her. "Good luck," I say with a slight smile and turn to leave. I hear Calvin say something to Raven behind me as she starts to sob, but I don't turn around. I get in my car and drive away, feeling a strange mixture of bitterness and satisfaction. 3 days after my visit to the bank, the phone doesn't stop ringing. Calvin calls several times a day. I don't answer. Laurel tries to contact me too. I drop her calls too. I need time to gather my thoughts, to solidify my decision. I know I'll have to face the consequences of my actions sooner or later, but for now, I just want to be alone. On the 4th day, the doorbell rings at the worst possible moment. I've just gotten out of the shower and I'm standing there with a towel around my shoulders, hastily pulling on my pants and shirt. Through the peephole, I see Laurel. She looks worried, nervously rubbing the strap of her bag. I sigh and open the door. "Dad." She walks inside without waiting for an invitation. "Finally! I've called you dozens of times. Why don't you answer?" "I wasn't ready to talk," I answer, closing the door. "Would you like some tea?" "Tea?" Laurel looks at me like I'm offering her poison to drink. "Dad, do you realize what you've done? Calvin and Raven could lose the house." I walk silently into the kitchen, knowing she'll follow me. I put the kettle on, take out the cups. Routines help keep me calm. "Can you hear me?" Laurel's almost shouting. "The bank sent them a notice. They have 30 days to find a solution or the loan will be canceled." "I hear you," I answer without turning around, "and I'm well aware of the consequences of my decision." "Then why?" Laurel steps closer, forcing me to look her in the eye. "Why would you do that to your own grandson?" I hold her gaze. "Do you know what happened at their party?" Laurel averts her eyes. "Calvin told me." "Yes, Raven acted wrong. But she was on edge. It was their first party in their new house. She was nervous. She publicly humiliated me, I interrupt. She said in front of all your friends that I wasn't invited. She made me look like an intruder in the house I helped buy. Wait, Laurel frowns. What do you mean you helped buy it? This is it. The moment of truth I've been avoiding. I pour boiling water into the cups, add the tea bags. I gave Calvin the money for the down payment and became a co-borrower on the mortgage because they didn't have enough credit history. Laurel looks at me in disbelief. What? When did this happen? Why didn't I know anything? Because you've always said that the young should handle things on their own, I answer, handing her a cup. That they should learn responsibility, that they shouldn't rely on their parents all the time. But I didn't mean, she stammered. I just wanted them to be on their own. I didn't think they'd have to live in a rented apartment for years. And I didn't want my grandson to put his life on hold for lack of money, I say. Especially when I have that money. Laurel sits down at the table, wrapping her arms around her cup. How much did you give them? $55,000 for a down payment, and your name on the loan agreement, which is more important. Without me, they wouldn't have gotten that favorable interest rate. They wouldn't have gotten a loan at all. Laurel looks shocked. And now you're calling the whole thing off? Because of one fight? Dad, that's cruel. Cruel? I'm sitting across from her. You know what's cruel? Your sister-in-law telling you to your face that you're not wanted at their party, when your grandson stands next to you and doesn't say a word in your defense, when you're used for money and then kicked out the door. Calvin loves you, Laurel protests. He's just confused. He was caught between two fires. And he chose his wife's side, I finish for her. Well, I don't blame him, but don't blame me for making a choice either. Laurel finishes her tea and sets the cup down on the table with unnecessary force. You have to make things right. Undo your decision. Otherwise, they'll lose the house. They'll find another co-borrower or refinance the loan. With their income? Laurel shakes her head. No bank will give them that kind of money without a reliable co-borrower. Then they'll sell the house, I shrug. They'll go back to renting. A lot of people live like that. I don't recognize you, Laurel stands up. You've always been strict, but never vindictive. And I don't recognize my daughter, I counter, who defends the woman who insulted her father instead of taking my side. Laurel looks like I hit her. That's not fair. I'm not defending Raven. I just think your reaction is disproportionate to the offense. You weren't there, I say quietly. You didn't see her eyes. You didn't hear her tone. This wasn't just a misdemeanor, Laurel. It was a deliberate humiliation. And yet, Laurel heads for the exit, I'm asking you to think again, not for Raven's sake, for Calvin's sake, for me. After she leaves, I sit in the kitchen for a long time, staring out the window at the neighbor's garden. Maybe I really did overreact. Maybe my reaction was too harsh, too impulsive. But then I remember the look on Raven's face when she said I wasn't invited. The cold satisfaction in her eyes when she saw my humiliation. No, I did the right thing. I won't let anyone, not even my relatives, treat me like an unwanted old man. That evening, Calvin calls. This time, I decide to answer it. Grandpa, his voice sounds exhausted. Finally, please, we need to talk. I'm listening, I answer dryly. Not on the phone. Can I come over? I glance at the clock. It's almost 8 o'clock at night. It's late, Calvin. Please. I can hear the panic in his voice. It's very important. I just got off the phone with the bank. The situation. Complicated. I sigh. Okay. Sighs. Come over. Half an hour later, he's sitting in my living room looking absolutely shattered. Circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, disheveled hair. I almost feel sorry for him. Almost. The bank refuses to refinance the loan, he says, looking down at the floor. Our income isn't enough. They've given us 30 days to find a solution or we'll have to sell the house. You could find another co-borrower, I suggest. Raven's parents, for example. Calvin shakes his head. Her father died 5 years ago. Her mother lives on a disability pension. She doesn't fit. What about friends? Other relatives? No one wants to make that kind of commitment. He raises his eyes to me. Grandfather, please. I know what Raven did was awful. It's my fault for not intervening, but we're truly sorry. Raven even wanted to come to apologize in person. But she didn't, I remark. She was afraid you wouldn't want to see her, Calvin sighs. And I thought it would be better to come alone first. Try to explain. Explain what? Why your wife decided to humiliate me in front of all your guests. Calvin clenches his hands so hard his knuckles turn white. She's been on edge. The move, the remodeling, the party, it all came together at once. She didn't mean to hurt you. Don't lie to me, Calvin, I say harshly. I saw her eyes. She knew what she was doing. He's silent for a few seconds, then nods. Good. Yeah. She was against you being at the party. She didn't think you'd fit in, that you wouldn't feel comfortable around young people. So she decided to kick me out in front of everyone? I shake my head. Calvin, even if she was right, there are more tactful ways to deal with such issues. I know. He looks ashamed. And I told her that afterward. We had a big fight about it. I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. Grandfather, I swear that nothing like that will ever happen again. Raven realized her mistake. She will apologize to you personally if you let her. We both ask you to give us another chance. I look at my grandson, so much like Laurel in his gentleness, his desire to please everyone, to avoid conflict at all costs. And yet there's something of me in him too, stubbornness, determination when it comes to the important things. Tell me the truth, Calvin. Are you here because you're truly sorry for what happened, or because you're afraid of losing your home? He flinches as if I've hit him. That's not a fair question, Grandpa. On the contrary, it's a very honest one, I counter. And I want an honest answer. Calvin sighs deeply. Both. I am truly sorry for what happened at the party. And yes, I'm afraid of losing the house. But don't think I'm just here for the money. I miss you. I miss our conversations, your advice. I want us to be a family again. I study his face, trying to find signs of lying, but all I see is tiredness and genuine remorse. I need to think about it, I say finally. This is a big decision, and I won't make it hastily. Of course, Calvin looks a little relieved. I understand. Thank you for at least listening to me. He walks away, and I'm left alone with my thoughts. Part of me wants to believe him, forgive him, and go back to the way things were. But the other part, the more cynical part, suspects that this is all just an attempt to save the house. That once I re-establish my involvement in the loan, they'll keep me at a distance again. The next day, Laurel calls. Calvin said he talked to you, she says without preamble. Have you made a decision? Not yet, I answer, and I don't like the pressure you're all putting on me. No one's pushing, Laurel objects, even though we both know they're not. It's just time playing against them. The bank won't wait forever. I know the timeline as well as you do, I say, and I'll make a decision when I'm ready. Laurel sighs. Dad, please, for the family, for peace between us. Where was the concern for peace between us when Raven was kicking me out the door, I ask. Where was your concern for family then? I already told you. I wasn't there. If I had been present, I would have certainly intervened. I doubt it, but I don't say it out loud. Anyway, Laurel continued, it's not about the past. It's about the future. It's about whether we can get past this and move on as a family. I'll think about it, I say again. That's all I can promise right now. After talking to Laurel, I decide to go for a walk. Autumn South Haven is beautiful. Golden leaves underfoot, clear air, the smell of smoke from fireplaces. I walk down the familiar streets, pondering the situation. On the one hand, I realize that my defaulting on the loan has caused serious problems for Calvin and Raven. On the other, part of me thinks they deserve this lesson, that you can't accept my help and still treat me like a burden. At the corner of Maple Street and Oak Avenue, I run into Tiffany, Calvin's co-worker who I met at the ill-fated party. "Mr. Nightingale." She looks surprised. "What a pleasure to meet you." "Harper, please," I correct her. "How are you, Tiffany?" "Fine, thank you," she smiles. "I went to the bakery and got some fresh bread. Would you like to join me at the coffee shop across the street? They make great coffee." I hesitate for a second. Why not? I could use the company, and Tiffany seems like a nice girl. At the cafe, we order coffee and pastries. The conversation flows easily, about the weather, about Southaven, about Tiffany's job in tech support. She's a smart and attentive conversationalist, asks the right questions, really listens to the answers. "How's Calvin doing?" I ask when the conversation naturally turns to this topic. "We've been having a complicated relationship." Tiffany frowns slightly. To be honest, he looks exhausted. He says they're having trouble with their mortgage, they might lose the house. "Yeah, that's the situation." I don't go into detail. "I feel sorry for them." Tiffany stirs her coffee. "Especially Calvin. He was so proud of that house. Raven, too, of course, but it's always different." "What do you mean?" I lean closer involuntarily. Tiffany looks embarrassed, as if she's said something unnecessary. "Don't mind me. I'm not supposed to gossip." "It's not gossip if it involves my grandson," I say. "Please be honest." She sighs. "It's just that Raven sometimes says things, not the nicest things, about Calvin, about his family, about you. I feel a chill go through me." "About me?" "Yes." Tiffany looked distinctly uncomfortable. "At work, when we have lunch together or go out after shift, Calvin sometimes talks about you. Warmly, respectfully. And Raven, comments." "What exactly does she say?" My voice sounds strained. Tiffany hesitates. "I'm not sure I should." "Please," I cover her hand with mine. "I need to know." "She calls you." Tiffany hesitates. "Old Grump. Says you're meddling in their lives, that Calvin consults you too much in everything, that you manipulate him with money." I let go of her hand and lean back in my chair. I can't say I'm surprised, but it still hurts to hear that. "I don't think she really means it," Tiffany adds hastily. "It's just words. People often say mean things about their partner's relatives, but not in front of the partner," I point out. "And what does Calvin do when she says that?" Tiffany lowers her eyes. "He doesn't react. Sometimes he changes the subject. Sometimes he laughs nervously. But he doesn't defend me," I finish. "No," Tiffany admits. She doesn't. We finish our coffee in silence. Tiffany is clearly uncomfortable with what she's told me, and I'm deep in my own thoughts. So Raven had been speaking contemptuously of me long before the incident at the party, and Calvin knew about it. Let it happen. "Thank you for your honesty," I say as we leave the cafe. "It explains a lot. I hope I didn't cause more problems." Tiffany looks worried. "Calvin's a good man, just too soft." "Yeah," I agree. "He's always been like that." We say goodbye, and I walk home with a heavy heart. I realize now that what happened at the party wasn't an accident or the result of stress. It was a logical extension of how Raven really feels about me. And what's worse is that Calvin, knowing about that attitude, invited me anyway, putting me at risk of humiliation. At home, I find an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside is a letter from Raven, handwritten on expensive paper. "Dear Harper, I am writing to express my deepest regret for what happened at our party. My behavior was inexcusable, and I understand why you made that decision regarding the mortgage. I was stressed out, overworked, worried about impressing the guests, but that's no excuse. Nothing excuses the way I treated you. Please, for the sake of Calvin, who loves you so much, reconsider. We're willing to agree to whatever terms you think are fair. I personally promise that nothing like this will ever happen again. With respect and hope for forgiveness, Raven. I reread the letter several times. It seems sincere, but after talking to Tiffany, I see it in a different light. Raven isn't regretting her treatment of me. She's regretting the consequences. She's not apologizing out of remorse. She wants to keep the house. I sit down at my desk and write a short reply. Raven, I received your letter. Thank you for your apology. However, I know that your attitude toward me has not changed. I know how you talked about me behind my back, long before the party. I know Calvin heard it all and never objected. I'm not interested in fake apologies or a relationship based on financial dependence. My decision regarding the mortgage stands. Harper. I seal the letter in an envelope but do not send it. It will stay with me for now, a reminder of why I shouldn't give in to manipulation and guilt. In the evening, Calvin calls. Grandpa, his voice sounds excited. Raven sent you a letter. Did you get it? Yes, I answer. It's very eloquent. She wrote it for hours, Calvin says. She was worried she couldn't express her remorse properly. I'm sure she was, I say dryly. Have you made up your mind? Not yet, I answer. But I'm close to it. Grandpa, please, I hear real panic in his voice. The bank called today. They're going to start the process of revoking the loan if we don't find a solution by the end of the week. Calvin, I say calmly, I ran into your co-worker Tiffany by chance today. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Yeah? His voice sounds strained. She told me something interesting, about how Raven talks about me when you and your co-workers get together, about how you react to what she says. The silence drags on. Grandfather, I interrupt. I don't want to hear another excuse. Just know that I understand, and my decision will be based on that understanding. I end the call without waiting for him to answer. At night, I can't sleep for a long time. I turn from side to side, replaying the events of the last few days in my head. Raven speaking scornfully about me behind my back, Calvin letting her do it, Laurel taking their side, and me, a lonely old man who only wants money. Bitter. But at least now I see the situation clearly, and I know what I have to do next. The morning is gray and cold. I sit at the window with a cup of tea and watch the drizzle blurring the outlines of the neighbors' houses. It's as if nature itself has decided to match my mood, uncertain, foggy, but strangely calm. Over the past week, I've made a decision that's been maturing inside me since the humiliation at the party. I will not go back on Calvin and Raven's mortgage obligations. I will not give in to their manipulations, tears, and pleas. Let them sell the house. Let them learn to live within their means. Let them realize the cost of their actions. The calls from Laurel and Calvin continue, but I don't answer anymore. I have nothing to say to them. Or rather, what I have to say, they're not ready to hear. Instead, I've taken care of myself, for the first time in years. After Molly died, it was as if I'd been frozen in time, existing but not really living. I was Calvin's grandfather, Laurel's father, Molly's widower, but who was I to myself? It was a question I hadn't asked myself in years. Now, freed from having to conform to someone else's expectations, I'm beginning to rediscover myself. And the first thing I discover is that I still have dreams. I pull an old notebook with a worn leather cover out of my desk drawer. Molly had given it to me for our 20th anniversary with the inscription on the first page, "For your dreams and the plans we'll make together." Back then, I wrote down in it all the places I wanted to visit, all the things I wanted to do. Over time, some dreams came true, others remained unfulfilled. I flipped through the yellowed pages, reading notes made 30 years ago. To see Venice before it goes underwater, learn to play the guitar, to visit every state in America, 17 to go. To try wood carving, see the northern lights, write a memoir. I smile looking at this list. Some of the desires seem naive now, others too ambitious for a man my age. Still, why not give it a try? I open my laptop and start searching for information on tours to Iceland. If I want to see the northern lights, this is the perfect place. An hour later, I'm already studying the offers of various travel companies specializing in trips for seniors. One offer in particular catches my eye: a 2-week tour of Iceland with a focus on natural attractions, including several nights in special locations to see the northern lights. The price is impressive, but affordable for me. Even after giving Calvin money for the down payment, I have plenty left in savings. I don't think about it for long. I just booked the tour for next month. The first step toward a new life is taken. Laurel calls in the evening. I'm about to ignore the call like I usually do, but something compels me to answer. Maybe it's the feeling that I need to explain my decision. "Hello, Laurel," I say, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Dad." She sounds surprised, like she didn't expect me to answer. I'm so glad you picked up the phone. We've all been worried sick." "I'm fine," I replied. "I just needed some time to think." "And have you made a decision? About the mortgage?" Of course, that's the first thing she asks, not how I feel. "Yes," I say calmly. "I won't go back on the loan commitment. It's a final decision." Silence on the other end of the line. Then a deep sigh. "Dad, do you realize what this means? They're going to lose the house. The bank has already started foreclosure proceedings." "I understand," I say, "and I'm sorry about that. But I will no longer be used as an ATM that can be accessed when needed and kept at a distance the rest of the time." "It's not fair," Laurel's voice trembles. "Calvin loves you. He's always respected you. Has he? Maybe. Respects? I doubt it. A man who respects another man doesn't let his wife call his grandfather an old grump and accuse him of manipulation." "What?" Laurel sounds genuinely surprised. "What are you talking about?" I tell her about the conversation with Tiffany, about what I learned about Raven's attitude toward me, about Calvin's acquiescence. "I didn't know," Laurel says quietly. "I swear I didn't know." "Now you do," I reply. "And maybe you'll understand why I'm in no hurry to save them from the consequences of my own actions." "But Dad," Laurel is still trying. "They're young. They're wrong. Raven is truly remorseful. I've talked to her." "She's remorseful because she's losing her home," I interrupt, "not because she realized how much she hurt me. And frankly, I don't care about that anymore. I've decided to move on." "What do you mean?" "I've booked a tour to Iceland," I say, feeling my lips stretch into a smile. "I'm leaving in a month. I'm going to see the northern lights, walk on glaciers, swim in hot springs." "Iceland?" Laurel sounds confused. "But, why? And why now?" "Because I've always wanted to see the northern lights. Because I'm 68 years old, and if not now, when? Because I deserve to live for myself, not just for others." "You're running away," Laurel's voice is accusatory. "Running away from the problem instead of solving it." "No," I say firmly. "I solved the problem. I gave up a toxic relationship and chose me. That's not running away. That's moving forward." Laurel is silent for a long moment, and I can almost hear her mulling over my words. "I still think you should give them another chance," she finally says, "for the sake of the family." "And I think a real family respects each other's boundaries and doesn't manipulate through guilt," I reply. And that's the end of the conversation. I need to get ready for my trip. After talking to Laurel, I feel strangely light. It's as if I've spoken my decision out loud and I've finally made it. Yes, it's not going to be easy. Yes, the relationship with my daughter and grandson will likely never be the same. But maybe it's for the best. Maybe the old relationships weren't worth preserving. Over the next few weeks, I'm fully immersed in preparing for the trip. I buy warm clothes, waterproof boots, a new camera. I read books about Iceland, learn basic phrases in Icelandic. I order a new suitcase and travel accessories. A letter arrives from Calvin, a formal notice that he and Raven have to sell the house. The bank has given them 3 months to finalize the deal. He doesn't ask for help, doesn't plead for a change of heart, just informing me, as co-borrower. At the end is a handwritten note. I understand your decision, Grandpa, and although it hurts, I respect your choice. I hope someday you can forgive us. Love, Calvin. I fold the letter and tuck it away in my desk drawer. Maybe someday, but not now. The day of departure comes unexpectedly fast. I wake up early even though my flight isn't until the evening. Checking my suitcase for the third time, I call the cab service to confirm my reservation. I'm as nervous as a teenager before a first date. The doorbell rings just as I'm finishing breakfast. Laurel stands on the doorstep with a small box in her hands. "I couldn't let you go without a parting gift," she says, holding out the box. I let her into the house and we sit down in the living room. I open the box and inside is a hand-knitted wool scarf, warm and soft in shades of blue and green. "The colors of the northern lights," Laurel explains, "to keep you warm when you look at it." "Thank you," I say, touched by the gesture. "It's beautiful." Laurel looks embarrassed. "Dad, I want to apologize for not understanding you right away, for pressuring you about that mortgage. You were right. Some things are more important than money or even family ties. Self-respect, for example." I nod, not trusting my voice. "Calvin and Raven found an apartment," Laurel continues. "A small one, but in a nice neighborhood. They'll be fine. This experience has taught them a lot, I think." "I'm glad," I say sincerely. "I never wanted to hurt them. I just couldn't go on with the old relationship." Laurel nods. "I understand. I get it now. And I want you to know that when you come back, I'll be here. Not to judge or to demand, but just be there for you, if you want me to be." "Thank you," I squeeze her hand. "It means a lot to me." We say goodbye without tears or promises, but with a new understanding of each other. Perhaps this is the beginning of a different, healthier relationship between us. There's still plenty of time. In the evening, a cab takes me to the airport. I stare out the window at the passing streets of Southaven, the city that has been my home for the past 40 years. It feels strange to leave it, even if only for a short time. And yet I feel not fear, but anticipation. At the airport, I join my tour group 12 people, most around my age. A woman with short gray hair and lively blue eyes introduces herself as Eleanor, our guide. "Welcome to our Icelandic adventure," she says with a smile. "I promise these 2 weeks will change your life." I smile back, thinking that my life has already changed the moment I decided to embark on this journey. During check-in, I get to know some of my traveling companions. Beth and George, a married couple from Oregon celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. Malcolm, a widower from New York City, a former literature professor. Susan, an energetic woman a little younger than me who has been traveling alone for 10 years since she retired. "Is this your first time traveling alone?" Susan asks me as we sit in the waiting area. "Yes," I admit. "I'm not usually an adventurous traveler." "Oh, then you picked a great way to start," she smiles. "Iceland is magical. And you know there's a special freedom in traveling alone. You do what you want, when you want, without having to adjust to anyone else." "Sounds like fun," I smile back. "I've missed that freedom lately." We chat about traveling, about life, about the importance of finding new sources of joy at our age. Susan tells of her adventures in Thailand, Peru, New Zealand. I listen with admiration and slight envy. How many things I could have seen if I had started traveling sooner. "It's never too late to start," Susan says, as if reading my mind. My roommate on last year's tour to Japan was 82, and he was planning a trip to Antarctica for next year. Our flight is announced and we head to the gate. I feel nervous excitement mixed with anxiety, a normal state before embarking on something new and uncharted. Already on the airplane, as I fasten my seatbelt, I think about how strangely my life has turned. A month ago, I was just Calvin's grandfather, Laurel's father, a widower living on memories. Now I'm a traveler setting out for the Northern Lights. A man who chose himself over a toxic relationship. The plane pulls away from the ground and I stare out the porthole at the receding lights of the city. Southaven gets smaller and smaller until it becomes a scattering of lights and then disappears altogether. I don't feel sadness or regret, just lightness and anticipation. 2 weeks in Iceland fly by like a day. We see majestic waterfalls, ancient glaciers, volcanic beaches with black sand. We bathe in geothermal springs, watch whales, taste strange local cuisine. But the most amazing thing happens on the 5th night of our trip. We stay in a small hotel in the middle of nowhere, specially built to watch the northern lights. Glass ceilings in the rooms, minimal lighting in the grounds, complete silence all around. Good chance of seeing the aurora tonight, Eleanor says over dinner. The sky is clear and the sun is active. Be ready to go outside at any moment. I'll sound the alarm if the glow starts. I get into bed but can't sleep with excitement. I stare through the glass ceiling at the starry sky, so bright and close, as it never is in the city. Around midnight there is a knock on the door and Eleanor's voice. "Aurora! Everybody outside! Quick!" I throw my coat on over my pajamas, wrap the scarf Laurel gave me around my neck and run outside. And I freeze, amazed at the sight. The sky above us is dancing. Green, blue, purple ribbons of light flow into each other, pulsing, fanning out. It's as if someone invisible is painting luminous colors on the black canvas of the sky. "Oh my God," I whisper, unable to tear my gaze away. Susan is standing next to me, her face illuminated by the glow. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she says. "Moments like this are worth living for." I nod, unable to speak. Tears run down my cheeks, but I don't wipe them away. They are tears of pure joy, of rapture at the beauty of the world. At this moment, I realize that I made the right decision, that life is too short to waste it on people who don't appreciate you, that even at 68 you can start over. The northern lights have been on for almost 2 hours. We all stand mesmerized, oblivious to the cold and the late hour. As the last green flashes fade away, I feel changed. It's as if this magical celestial display has washed away the last doubts and fears. During the remaining days of the trip, I grow closer to Susan and a few others in the group. We exchange addresses, agreeing to meet again. Susan talks about a tour to New Zealand next spring and suggests we join. "I'll think about it," I say. And it's not a polite refusal. I really will. Returning to Southaven after 2 weeks in Iceland is strange. Home feels both familiar and foreign at the same time. I unpack my suitcase, arranging the souvenirs I brought, a small lava troll, a wool sweater, a bottle of volcanic ash. There are several messages on my answering machine. From Laurel, asking me to call you when I get back. From Calvin, information about the sale of the house. They've found a buyer. The deal will close in a month. From Tiffany, an invitation to coffee, if that's okay. I call Laurel first. She arrives an hour later with a pie and listens intently to my stories about Iceland, looks at the pictures, genuinely enjoys my impressions. "You look different," she says when I finish the story. "Younger, more energetic." "That's how I feel," I confess. Like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. We talk about Calvin and Raven no bitterness, just the fact. They're selling the house, moving into an apartment. Raven is looking for a new job. Her travel agency has downsized. Calvin's still in tech support, thinking about continuing education courses. "They'll get through it," Laurel says. "It was a good lesson for both of them." I nod. I don't feel gloating, but I don't feel sorry either. They're adults, making their own choices and facing the consequences, just like me. A week after my return, I meet Tiffany at the same cafe where we talked last time. She admires my tan and the sparkle in my eyes. "You look amazing," she says sincerely. "Iceland has clearly been good for you." "Not just Iceland," I reply with a smile. "Freedom too." We talk about her work, about my plans for the future, I talk about Susan's offer to join a tour to New Zealand. You should go. Tiffany perks up. New Zealand is beautiful. I was there last year. I think I'll go, I say. I've also signed up for a wood carving class. I've always wanted to try it but kept putting it off. That's great. Tiffany looks at me with genuine admiration. You are so inspiring. Doing what you've dreamed of, not letting age or circumstances stop you. I smile, accepting the compliment. Before, I would have been embarrassed, brushed it off, said something self-deprecating. Now I just say thank you. At the end of our meeting, Tiffany suddenly asks, "Have you seen Calvin since you got back?" No, I shake my head. We only communicate through texts. I think we both need time. He's changed, Tiffany says thoughtfully. After all this, more determined, less willing to let Raven call the shots. I'm glad to hear that, I say sincerely. I hope this situation has taught them both something. In the evening, sitting in my garden with a glass of whiskey, I reflect on how my life has changed over the past few months. From humiliation at a party to the northern lights over Iceland. From feeling betrayed and bitter to finding new freedom in friends. I don't know if I'll ever truly reconcile with Calvin and Raven. Our relationship may never be the same, and that's okay. People change. Relationships evolve. The important thing is that I'm not going to let anyone else overstep my boundaries or make me feel unwanted. I pull from my pocket a small rock I picked up on a black beach in Iceland. The smooth, ocean-polished basalt is a reminder that even the hardest things can change shape with time and the elements. So can people. And so can I. At my 68, life isn't ending. It's just beginning. And I intend to live it fully, without regret or compromise at the expense of my own dignity. Free of toxic relationships, open to new experiences and people who appreciate me for who I am. The northern lights dancing in the Icelandic sky showed me that there is so much beauty in the world that I haven't seen yet. So many places I haven't been. So many things I haven't tried to do. And now I have the time, the resources, and most importantly, the freedom to catch up. I raise my glass in a silent toast to myself, to my decision, to my new life. And I have no regrets.